Hello, my name is Kevin Davidson, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Kazakhstan. First, let's start off with an overview on the country. Kazakhstan is located in Central Asia, just south of Russia, and extends east from the Caspian Sea to the Altai Mountains, and has just located west of China. Interestingly, a small area in the western part of the country is geographically located in Europe, despite being considered a part of Asia. As far as the size of the country, it's roughly over 1 million square miles, actually 1,052,090 square miles to be exact. Kazakhstan is the largest landlocked country in the world. Kazakhstan does have a shoreline to the Caspian Sea, but does not have any direct access to the world's oceans. In fact, vast regions of the territory are uninhabited, which presents challenges that will be discussed later in this presentation. Kazakhstan's current population as of 2017 was just over 18 million people. The largest city in Kazakhstan is Almaty at 1.8 million people, with the country's capital of Astana being the second largest at just over 1 million people. As far as the origins of Kazakhstan, ethnic Kazakhs are a mix of Turkic and Mongol nomadic tribes who migrated to the region by the 13th century. By the 18th century, Russia had conquered the country, and Kazakhstan became a part of the Soviet Republic in the 1930s. Through the 1960s, Soviet citizens introduced a socialist culture that helped drive out many of the ethnic Kazakhs. Non-Muslim ethnic minorities departed Kazakhstan in large numbers in the mid-90s through the mid-2000s, and the national program has repatriated about 1 million ethnic Kazakhs back to Kazakhstan today. Now let's discuss the culture of Kazakhstan, which is made up of two sects of people and traditions: the ethnic Kazakhs and Russians. The repatriatism of ethnic Kazakhs has really taken a hold. Kazakhstan is made up of mostly ethnic Kazakhs at about 63% of the population, and about 24% of the population is Russian. The Kazakh language is understood and spoken by 74% of the population, but Russian is considered the official language used in business and is understood and spoken by 94% of the population. This is going to be a common theme seen in Kazakhstan, where the ethnic Kazakh and Russian traditions, languages, etc. are going to play a predominant factor and integral role in the country. Currently, Kazakhstan sees less than 3% of the population to be living below the national poverty rate, which is really strong and suggests great economic opportunity in the country. As well, Kazakhstan sees the average life expectancy to be just over 72 years, which means the overall well-being of the residents in Kazakhstan tends to be pretty good. As far as politics are concerned, Kazakhstan is formally recognized as a part of the Soviet Socialist Republic. However, they now operate under a presidential republic. Kazakhstan shares many political concepts with the U.S., obviously the presidential republic being one of them, but they also share a national constitution, 2 houses and a legislative branch, and a Supreme Court within a judicial branch. Obviously, those are just concepts shared. There are definitely specifics within the political spectrum that vary quite a bit, but definitely a lot of opportunity there for a free market system. As far as religions, Kazakhstan is currently 70% Muslim and 26% Christianity, specifically being Russian Orthodox. And arts and entertainment within Kazakhstan has recently undergone a rebirth of culture, if you will, through the reintroduction of traditions of the ethnic Kazakhs. The picture shown in the slide is actually a museum in which some of the ethnic Kazakh traditions have been properly restored and displayed for appreciation. Now I'm going to talk about the business climate of Kazakhstan, which, with the low poverty rate, shows there are some very promising signs for an employer to do business in Kazakhstan. Continuing with those promising signs, there are a lot of favorable reasons within the business climate in Kazakhstan that suggest operations should occur within the country. The first and most important reason or favorable aspect of the business climate in Kazakhstan is the workforce itself. There is a strong potential for potential workers, and Kazakhstan boasts a significant number of population within the prime working age, with 42% of the population being aged between 25 and 54 years, which tends to be the current age range that most employers hire. There are also great future prospects, as around 40% of the population is aged 0 to 24 years, which can be seen in the graph above with both male and female potential, just from a population perspective. But more importantly, these are also going to be educated workers. Currently, Kazakhstan has over 1.35 million residents enrolled in school, and about 98% of them will complete the final grade within their curriculum, which is shown in the graph above as well. That's very important, as having the access and ability to have a skilled workforce will be critical for any employer looking to do business in any country, and bodes well for an employer choosing to operate in Kazakhstan. Another area that is very favorable towards the business climate in Kazakhstan is diversification. As Mark Smith, Eurobank chairman, points out, there has been greater emphasis in recent years that has been put on diversifying the economy and creating incentives for investment in sectors such as tourism, agriculture, consumer goods, construction, ecology, and information technology, to name a few. This diversification is going to be very appealing for any business, as they may have easy access to suppliers and vendors to make sure that they can meet normal business needs. One of those categories that was mentioned on the diversification is tourism, and this is a big one for Kazakhstan. Tourism has grown significantly here in recent years, with the growth being upwards of 10% each year. That type of growth is a great spur and indicator to economic activity, as there's going to be increased numbers of non-Kazakhstan residents coming into Kazakhstan and spending money on goods and services, thus suggesting a greater opportunity for businesses to succeed. Unfortunately, though, there are some big unfavorable categories within Kazakhstan's business climate that definitely need to be considered and addressed. The most important being the Soviet culture and Soviet carryover that continues to play a role in Kazakhstan's business climate. Unfortunately, this is seen heavily on a government level, as the Kazakhstan government continues to have a significant control on large businesses, and the country continues to struggle to adopt a free market system despite having that presidential republic that was talked about in the culture of Kazakhstan. And by having a government that is still rooted in a Soviet culture to a degree, makes it very difficult for a business to acquire construction permits, getting electricity, etc. And this lags behind many developed countries, according to a World Bank report, which means it's going to be harder for a business to be set up and started in Kazakhstan, and is not going to be very favorable towards the country. Another area where Kazakhstan struggles with their Soviet culture is with regards to manufacturing, especially with efficiency and productivity. Many of the facilities are outdated and in need of a lot of newer technology, as well as the culture related to manufacturing is still very much rooted in that Soviet culture, where output is going to be preferred over profit, and obviously in today's day and age, profit is king. Lastly, Kazakhstan struggles with infrastructure, especially with regards to transportation. This actually explains why much of the country is uninhabited, and becomes a major struggle for getting from one city to another, as there is not a great highway or road system that connects these cities, which means that it's going to be a big detriment to businesses looking to operate in Kazakhstan. Overall, Kazakhstan has a strong business climate, but definitely there are some areas of consideration for any business to consider. It's clear that an employer or a business would want to have operations in Kazakhstan, but what are the human resource management considerations that the country will have to look into? As far as the human resource management challenges, the greatest challenge Kazakhstan faces is with regards to the origins and history, specifically related to their Soviet socialist history and ties. As they continue to implement more Western business practices in the country, these will clash with the Soviet culture that is still deeply rooted within the country. As well, the Soviet ties do present a unique issue, as there's going to be heavy power within maybe one individual person, which typically presents an opportunity for some form of corruption to occur. According to the 2014 Corruption Index, Kazakhstan scored a corruption index score of 29, which is out of 100. As far as for comparison, the US scored a 74 in the same year. It's clear that Kazakhstan is not considered a country that is going to be highly regarded with regards to corruption, and presents unique opportunities from a human resource management side to ensure that information is kept confidential and secure when necessary, as well as that there's some ethical code that can be properly followed. Another area where there are going to be HR related challenges is with the demographics and diversity of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is mostly made up of ethnic Kazakhs and Russians, which can present some significant problems. Ethnic Kazakhs and Russians vary greatly in religion and ideologies, which can be difficult if both are employed by any employer, but especially a multinational employer. Luckily, the predominant religions, Muslim and Christianity, are very common in many countries, and very likely that the company will have procedures in place to handle conflict or issues related to these, whether it be needing time for prayer or just ideological differences that could come up within a group project and things to that nature. Another area of HR challenges with management styles. Again, this goes back to the Soviet ties, as many of the managers function under the Soviet culture and require significant training to transition them to a more successful business practice. A lot of the Soviet culture was predominantly related around disciplinary and output, where today's more Western business practices are going to be more related to coaching, development, collaboration, innovation, teamwork, etc. There's also going to be communication difficulties that are going to have to be considered. As previously mentioned, there are two predominant languages spoken, with ethnic Kazakh language and Russian. Obviously, Russian is the more recognized language in business, and likely that most of the employees employed by a multinational enterprise will be speaking Russian. However, there could become times where there will be two different languages spoken, or anything that may be lost in translation, whether it be through a translator or just a misunderstanding in ideologies, whether it be related to Western business practices, etc. And lastly, the most important area of HR challenges is going to be the coaching and development. Kazakhstan currently has an underdeveloped human resources arena, if you will, in which there is not a lot of coaching and developing of employees and even managers to be able to handle many issues that current businesses face, especially diverse workforces. HR's ability to be able to coach and develop both new hires as well as the managers and current associates will be critical to the success of an organization that plans to operate in the country of Kazakhstan. Overall, it was mentioned that from a business climate perspective, that Kazakhstan is favorable to do business there, and it certainly suggests that a companies should operate there if they are looking to capture that part of the world. However, without considering these HR challenges and creating action plans and procedures to address these, the employer will really struggle and even fail. However, if they are able to properly address these and create great action plans, there's a good likelihood of strong success for a long time for that employer. Thank you.